Okay.
Okay, the demo number 2. Oh, wait a minute, this is my painting again?
Well, yeah, you like to show off.
You're just too lazy to do it.
What?
Anyhow, okay, so this is the color. I mean, color, come on, color is my thing, right? That's why I'm doing both.
I guess so. Yeah. Whatever you tell yourself to go to sleep at night is good. Yeah. Good.
Okay, so demo number 2. We set up this still life in our studio, Tonka House studio. And I borrowed Senju, my son's toys. Very colorful.
So you're not starting with color right away.
I have this particular way of working in this particular study. I want to show, I'm starting with the natural light, natural diffused neutral light here. And then eventually I would be turning on the light. So I'll show you why I painted it this way, but I wanted to make sure that each element is separated cleanly. So I got all the silhouette of these objects. And I gotta say, it took me a little while to find the right drawing because it's pretty complicated. A lot of different shapes kind of angling towards each other, but now I'm kind of getting into just kind of like a local color, just this basic lighting information, but not too much. I'm just really filling in the color right now. This, light is coming from screen left from the window. Very soft.
This is a very primary, like you have bright red, bright yellow. You're starting to block in different shapes now, but you're actually painting on shapes before getting like the bigger kind of picture going. Can you talk about that a little bit? Why kind of you're working this way versus in the past we've seen you kind of work the whole picture all at once?
Yeah, that's a good question. I felt I could actually wing it like this, and maybe that's why I struggled though. Obviously, I'm definitely thinking about it in my head,
Mm-hmm. So, what's really interesting to me too is like really, there aren't that many colors here, actually. It's just very punchy color, like very bright, vivid red. Like, would you say that's like, pretty high level of saturation? Like, is that like almost close to 100% saturated red?
Mm-hmm.
There are not many neutrals here.
I consider this type of a setup the hardest to deal with because you have such a strong colors that could be distracting into, in terms of your judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And although the number of hues may be much more limited here, but because of the strength of each hue, it gets really tricky. Like you could easily fall into a different judgment. Either you make it garish, like super saturated, you don't have any push and pull balance, or you don't make it punchy enough that it doesn't become as colorful as you see. And it's another tricky thing is a lot of sort of like 90-degree angle shapes, which actually, gets this, even if it's a soft diffuse light, it gets this hard edges all over the place. That could introduce sort of a very strong contrast between light and shadow, even in this kind of soft light setup.
Let me ask you this. Like I remember being in the room when you were painting this. Lighting is also changing on you, right? A little bit.
It was towards the end of the day in the afternoon, so it did get darker as I painted, which is always a tricky thing when you're painting from life, with the natural light.
Everyone taking this class is going to run into the same situation we do, which is light does move. It's going to change on you over the course of a painting. What do you do in a situation like that? Do you kind of try to stay true to what you saw from the very beginning? Do you adjust your painting?
I think it really depends. Sometimes one of the great things you could do is to paint fast enough that it doesn't change that much. But of course, in this case in particular, I actually struggled in the beginning. I kept redoing the drawing, so I lost a lot of time in the beginning. As you're painting, you do the judgment. You make a judgment. If you feel like it's not looking the way you want, then you stick to the lighting that you had in mind in the beginning. Adjusting to the light as you go might be actually easier because you always have reference in front of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to this area here where you're doing an overall, it looks like there's an overall blue layer of some kind. What's going on there?
I felt the robot toy, this bright red robot toy, felt out of place compared to other guys. I'm always conscious of temperature balance in the object, even in this kind of neutral lighting setup, especially as saturated as this object of robot toy is, that neutral light would slightly desaturate his light size, slightly. It would not be gray, but slightly. That means it'll be cooler than his warm, the shadow side.
Let's go back and look at where you're talking about that it looked out of place. Now, are you talking about when you look at it here in this image, when you look at it, what you're seeing compared to what you're painting? What exactly? Because I'll be honest, a lot of people would be fine with this right here.
Yeah. But then if you look at what I did in the end, it's a slight difference, but you see how it sits better, how it really sits. I think because if you look at other areas of the painting, again, it's always the comparison that, like if you look at the seesaw, it has a slightly cooler temperature on the light side, and I wanted to stay consistent in the picture, that's what I did.
That's great. I mean, that's actually really great because it's really about keeping consistent with your light source, and when it breaks down to it, it's a very simple thing. You're looking at temperature relationships throughout your painting and seeing that on that robot, it wasn't quite fitting with that overall simple idea. We should always, I think it's a good reminder that all of us can, come back and always look at the broader picture and adjust individual elements to sell a single simple idea.
Yeah.